Welcome into Five Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen if you're leaving the home. It is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. That is PGA Tour Radio. I'm Gary Williams, and this program is always brought to you by Century Insurance. Empathetic expertise, that's what they do. It's your business. It's their expertise. They are right by you. They invest in great things in the game of golf. Golf Pride. I actually did a little club fitting yesterday, and the Align Max grips are going on the clubs that I dialed into. I'm not going to tell you what I'm transitioning to, and I'm quite comfortable with that hybrid going into the bag. Of course, Pinehurst Resort, when it comes to making a trip to enjoy all the great things about the game of golf and the things around the game of golf, there's no better place than the cradle of American golf, because they have so much to offer you, including those new cottages at number 8, the new clubhouse and restaurant opening soon at Pinehurst number 10, and construction of number 11 coming soon. And then, of course, Peter Millar, everything that I've worn for the past 15 years, including this little pine hoodie right here, you can wear this in pear tart. You're thinking to yourself, I can't pull off pear tart. You can. Yes, you can. All right, we got a lot to get to on this Tuesday. Brendon de Jonge is going to join me, the one half of Wagyu and Filet. There are times that there's only so much steak you can consume for breakfast, because Johnson Wagner's son qualified for the North Carolina Junior, so he is off to watch his son Graham play some golf today. Good for him. Then also Justin Tupper is going to join us, the executive producer of a great new documentary that you can watch not only on Golf Pass, but you can watch it exclusively tonight on Golf Channel as well. So I'm looking forward to chatting with him about a project that is in a major metropolitan area that has extraordinary history around it. So we're going to talk to him coming up in less than 15 minutes. But, you know, we're coming off the exhale of Oakmont. And it really is, for all the players who played in that U.S. Open, it is exhausting. There's no doubt about it. And they transition to a signature series event at the Travelers that has become, and has been for quite some time, kind of the decompression chamber for the men's game. And similarly to what we have at the Heritage, when you go down to the low country of South Carolina after the Masters, that is what the Travelers is, and so we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Gabby Herzig is going to join us from right there in the state of Connecticut. But this week for the women, it's the KPMG Women's PGA. And this is very much about the KPMG Women's PGA. But it's about more than that, because the PGA of America made an enormous decision several years ago to relocate their headquarters to Frisco, Texas. And in turn, what they also did was to make a big-time commitment, not only to Frisco and moving their staff there, and meaning that those people are going to raise families in that area, but that they are going to commit to having a number of big-time events there. They had the Club Professional Championship there, and yes, the audience for that is modest. And then they had the Senior PGA there. And again, the audience is of a certain size. Well, this week it goes to another level, because the KPMG Women's PGA, yes, similar to a Senior PGA, is a major. But let me just say as one aside, as it pertains to KPMG, there is no company that I have seen in the last 15 to 20 years that has made a more pragmatic decision when it comes to investing in the game of golf than they have. Because they were out front of all these other presenting sponsors aligning themselves with women's golf. And I applauded them then, and I do it again today, because it was the driving force of everybody else looking at each other going, you know what, we can't just be where we are when it comes to our purse and our rotation. We've got to go to another level, because KPMG forced that. Well, Frisco is the anchor site for not only the KPMG Women's PGA starting this week, but also for the PGA Championship starting in 2027. And it better work, because that site is the future, not only of the headquarters for the PGA of America and its officers and its staff, and you've got this great, hotel property that is there. It's like Disneyland for golf. Having gone there, It's not just, hey, we can play the East course, we can play the West course, and you've got a Gil Hanse design, you got a Bo Welling design, and that's great. It's a destination, not only for that, but you've got a section of the PGA of America that has relocated their headquarters there. You have, I think, a putting course that is one of the largest, if not the largest in this country. You've got a short course. Like I said, it's Disneyland. They have all these various activations. That's all additive. At the end of the day, it's about the golf courses and about that golf course that Gil Hanse and Jim Wagner and the Cavemen designed, because this is a long-term commitment by the PGA of America to where the USGA has anchor sites. And yes, the PGA of America would like to be able to rely on a cadre of facilities and clubs that they know that there are ROTA. And whether it be a little bit more specific or less specific than the USGA has with the likes of Shinnecock and Pebble Beach and Pinehurst and Oakmont, at the end of the day, the bullseye is Frisco. And so Frisco takes center stage this week at a time when women's golf is being elevated for a lot of reasons. It could be to some measure because the number one player in the world is a very athletic, telegenic, very, very interesting, and the kind of person I'm talking about, Nelly Korda, that you lean forward. In the game, in women's golf has been far more global as far as where we've seen the interest level. I'm not saying that men's golf isn't global. Look at what we had with respect to the leaderboard at the US Open. We know it's very global, but the attraction of women's golf, particularly in the Far East, took hold far sooner than it did in the men's game. And Sayuri Pak had a lot to do with that before the turn of the century. But this is a big, big week because it takes us into what is the next phase for the PGA of America, to be able to rely on this site and for people to become familiar with this site and to become attracted to this site, not just to lean in and watch when you have a senior PGA and a KPMG women's PGA and the PGA Championship, but to say, I want to go there because it is a public offering. They want you to go and patronize that property. They better believe that you're going to say, heck yeah, I want to go there and I want to do all the things associated with it. So as we get through what is this major championship season where it feels like every week, if it's not the men, it's the women. And if it's not the women, it's the men over 50. That every week it's this big elevated event. And soon enough, the men are going to make their way after this signature series. You're probably not going to see a lot of the best men's players, whether they're from the United States or not, until the month of August in this country. You'll watch the Scottish because it is co-sanctioned. And of course, you'll watch the final men's major, the Open Championship from Royal Portrush. They come at you very, very swiftly. And so this transition from the US Open to the KPMG Women's PGA, it's just like that. This is an interesting situation because we're talking about the month of May, which is generally an ideal month in the state of Texas. There's a reason why for years and years and decades, whether it be Houston or Dallas or Fort Worth, that PGA events have been played in that state. But now we're a little bit deeper into the summer. And as I can tell you, there are certain parts of the country where the heat just feels different. I lived in Central Florida for 10 years, and from about May 15th until, Halloween, I thought I was living in Malaysia. And Texas is even different. It is a heat that can be suffocating at times. This week, I hope, is a great week for them because it is the jumping off point at a very, very high level for this facility to become familiar not only to golf fans, but to people who play golf. Because it's not just, like I said, watching golf. It's about going and saying, I want to play where they play the PGA Championship and the KPMG Women's PGA. And of course, we'll have more on that tomorrow. Mel Reed's going to join us. She's part of Live From's coverage on Golf Channel. Looking forward to her perspective on not only where we are midway through the championship season for the women, but specifically the site itself. All right, it is 10 minutes after 8, and we've got some breaking news as it relates to the PGA Tour. They have just announced very, very significant news. There has been some reporting in this area that this was going to happen. Well, the official release has just come out from the PGA Tour. They have announced their new CEO, and his name is Rolapp, and he comes from the National Football League. And here is what it says in short. After an extensive process, the PGA Tour CEO search committee, consisting of Arthur M. Blank, who is the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, Tiger Woods, Adam Scott, Jay Monahan, Joe Gorder, and Sam Kennedy, unanimously recommend Rolapp for the role. Rolapp will officially begin his new role later this summer. Rolapp joins the PGA Tour after spending 22 years at the National Football League, most recently serving as the NFL's chief media and business officer. He is widely regarded as one of the most influential executives in sports. So that news breaking as we speak right now. We're going to have more on this because Brendon de Jonge is going to join me at the bottom of the hour. And as somebody who was a member of the PGA Tour for well more than a decade, his thoughts on this. And again, this search has been ongoing for the last several months. I think people's ears are piqued when they hear National Football League. And yes, while that is the release from the PGA Tour, that last part about how he is regarded, that is not something that is just speak and talking points from the PGA Tour. His reputation around the industry of sports is very, very impressive. So we take a break right now. When we continue, Justin Tupper, executive producer of a new documentary you can watch tonight on Golf Channel. This is a project, and similarly, as we were talking about Frisco, Cobbs Creek is public as well. Cobbs Creek has fascinating, important history, not only in the greater Philadelphia area, but really in the game of golf. Why did they do this? And what is this story intended to tell? And who is involved? And when you find out, you're going to go, okay, now I'm really interested. It is a Tuesday edition. Again, the news just breaking. The new CEO of the PGA Tour, Rolapp, just announced from the PGA Tour. We'll have more on that coming up before we are done here on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. You can, of course, also listen. It's Channel 92 on PGA Tour Radio. That is Sirius XM. Back with you right after this. Back in on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel, also on Sirius XM's Channel 92, that is PGA Tour Radio, and this segment is brought to you by Peter Millar. For more than 2 decades, they have been refining performance, luxury, and style. Proudly, I have worn only Peter Millar for the last 15 years. You know, there are a lot of great stories. Everybody is a story that is in the game of golf, but there are certain stories that suddenly go away for whatever reason. Well, one is being resuscitated, revived to a level that is unimaginable. And tonight at 7 p.m. on Golf Channel, you can also watch this on Golf Pass, is the story of a place that has extraordinary history. It's Cobbs Creek. It's rising.
They say some things, once lost, are gone forever. But in the heart of one American city, a miracle is poised to rise anew. A spectacular mission is underway. A place to learn, to grow, and to inspire. Laying the foundation for a legacy reborn. Cobbs Creek Rising, headwaters to horizons. Coming soon to Golf Pass.
I am sentimental, but that does give me chills just knowing that the history of that place. And joining me now, the executive producer of this project and many others on Golf Pass NBC is Justin Tupper. Justin, good morning. Thanks for joining me. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Gary. Thanks for having me on. And as I mentioned before we got on, it's great to hear your voice on this network again. It feels right.
Thank you so much. Look, you and your team, you have choices when it comes to storytelling. Documentary work is personal. The game is personal. Why did you guys decide to take on this project at this time?
So, Gary, for years, I've had a desire to do a golf course documentary of either a restoration or a construction. And in my journal, I sort of called it From Dirt to Dogleg. It was my hope to be able to chronicle something like this. And about a year ago, maybe 13, 14 months ago, Tim Chance, who is the CEO of Troon Golf, reached out to myself and Will McIntosh, who is the president of our group. And he said to us, guys, there is a project that Troon is part of called Cobbs Creek in West Philadelphia. And I really think you should take a look at it, because I had told Tim at one time, and we were together, that I'd love, if the right story ever came about, I'd love to be able to tell it and chronicle. And, from that, I met the folks at the Cobb Creek Foundation and started to learn. And I'm a little embarrassed to say I didn't know a lot about Cobbs Creek. I like to think that I am a golf, purist, but I didn't know a lot about it. And when I started to dig into the story of Cobbs Creek, the history of Cobbs Creek, how long it's been around, that the great Charlie Sifford got his start there and called it his home course, that the architects of were like the who's who that collaborated on this golf course, and that how it kind of went into demise, and the fact that there's a group of people in Philadelphia who have gotten together to start this foundation to resurrect this piece of golf history. I mean, this is a golf course. Cobbs Creek is the same creek that runs through Marion Golf Club. This is a golf course that is deep, deep golf history. The 1928 U.S. Public Links was held there. I mean, this is a place, the layers of this story are unbelievable. And so this was it. Like, once I started to learn, I said, okay, kind of feel like I have one shot at this in our career, and this seems like an incredibly important story to document. And so that's what got us started, and from there it's been incredible.
Justin, you mentioned so many things. You mentioned Charlie Sifford's presence there. Integration and the ability of anybody to go and play the golf course was a foundational piece of it. You mentioned all these historical figures that lent their minds to the creation of the place as well. There's somebody else involved, and I want to ask you in terms of his impact on the city of Philadelphia, and that is the TGR Learning Center. So when you hear that, you go, okay, that's Tiger. So give everybody a sense of the presence of a TGR Learning Center, which is going to be at Cobbs Creek, and its impact on Philadelphia is saying, okay, we've got to be all in on this.
Yeah, it is. It's remarkable. I know a lot of people have heard of Tiger's Foundation, TGR. They probably have some idea what they're up to, but until you really see what they build and their deep, deep commitment in a community, it's truly amazing. And, we've said from the beginning of this, I mean, I didn't even mention that you have Gil Hansen, Jim Wagner working on this course yet. There's going to be a tremendous amount that comes out of this golf course. But everyone that's touching this really feels like the greatest thing that'll come out of this course. It won't be a putt that's made or maybe even a championship played here. It'll be the kids that come through that center that really find a home, find a being. Maybe the game of golf could touch them or change them in some kind of way. They're certainly going to learn a lot at the TGR Center. It's an amazing facility. If this was just the TGR Center, it would be an amazing story in itself. But again, it's just a layer into this incredible story that they're putting together in West Philadelphia.
Yeah, Justin, the choices that you have to make in terms of telling this story, we've talked for 5 minutes and we've mentioned all these names. And Gil and Jim and their great team, they're like archaeologists. They're going to find things out on that land, because let me just give people an idea. Hugh Wilson, you mentioned Marion. Hugh Wilson was this Princeton graduate who had really no experience in designing golf holes and built one of the greatest golf courses the world has ever known or seen. And that, of course, Marion, you mentioned Cobbs Creek that runs through the Marion property. But let me extend beyond that. George Thomas and George Crump and A.W. Tillinghast. I mean, my God, these are all the men who helped George Crump construct Pine Valley. How do you tell all of this?
Well, you do it over 3 years and 3 episodes, because that was the first, you hit the biggest challenge as a producer that myself and Fran Salamita and Will McIntosh ran into was, how do we tell this story? How do we give it the just that it deserves? Because there's history, there's architectural history, there's golf history, there's ecological issues that they run into that for most would be unsurmountable. I mean, the dedication and the commitment of this group at Cobbs Creek Foundation, a lot of people would have thrown their hands in the air and maybe, said this is just too much to take on. So there's a story of perseverance here. There's a story of West Philadelphia. So what we want to do is we're going to do this over 3 years. So this year, the one that will debut tonight, it's called Headwaters. And that covers much of the history and a lot of the challenges that they have coming into this project that continue to add up. And look, we've gotten amazing support from the Philadelphia community as well. The mayor, she was so kind to give us her time and come out and be part of this. And it's just, really awesome the way we're setting this story up. And then the next episode will be next year. And it's our hope to get more into the work that Wagner and Hans are doing out there and really get into this uncovering, because you're exactly right. They're uncovering the course right now and rehabilitating, but we don't even know what they're going to find or what they're going to come up with from there. And then the final year is our hope. Is the conclusion of this. And we'd love to show that all the way through and chronicle some children that are been in the TGR Foundation for a few years. We'd love to chronicle the first shots being hit out there after a really long restoration process. So it's very difficult. It's a hard process. It's going to take a few years, but we've got the best partners in the group at Cobbs Creek Foundation and tremendous support from our group here at Golf Pass. And so, we take this on as a tremendous responsibility, this storytelling. So we want to make sure that we chronicleize this and leave this in the archives for long after that we're all gone.
You mentioned and you've emphasized the team. Last thing for now, because again, this is just part one tonight. For you, we all have choices in life. You made the choice to do what you're doing, and I know how much you love golf. How enriching has this been for you personally to be involved in this?
Immensely. I love the game of golf. I've been involved in it from a media side and creating content for the last 15 years. And we've done some incredible work. And I like to think that we've helped millions and millions of golfers with their game just a little bit. But being able to tell stories like this about the game, about how golf can impact an entire community, how, that people who also love the game work really hard to create recreate a place like Cobbs Creek is, it's incredibly fulfilling work. And if I can sort of leave a little bit of a mark and let people understand how this game is, it's so wonderful in so many different ways. And it's done great things for lots of people in lots of different ways. And if we can continue to do that, then I think we'll have done our job here, and it is an incredible, fulfilling project to work on. So thanks for that question.
Of course, to see something like this come back to life in the most robust way. This is not just about playing golf. This is about life advocacy. It's about kids getting an opportunity to, well, whether they be good at golf or not, to rise above whatever their current status might be. All of those things. is why this project is so interesting, so powerful. Chapter 1 tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern on Golf Channel. I'm looking forward to the reaction from people who I know are going to be overwhelmed by all of this. Thank you for taking the time. Congratulations to you and the team. I know how much it means to you to just do the work. And again, it's just chapter 1. We got a couple more years to keep telling this story. Thanks so much, Justin.
Thank you, Gary.
There is Justin Tupper, executive producer. Again, Cobbs Creek. Think about those names. Think about Hugh Wilson, and you're going, Hugh Wilson, he's marrying. Yeah, and Hugh Wilson, he asked for help, and he got help from the likes of Tillinghast and Thomas and Crump. Are you kidding me? And Gil Hans and Jim Wagner are experts at peeling back the layers of land and finding what was lost that can be found again. Amazing. All right, we're going to take a break. Brendon de Jonge is going to join me. His reaction to the news that broke about 15 minutes ago about the announcement of the new CEO of the PGA Tour. Get his thoughts on that and more reaction and fallout from the U.S. Open at Oakmont. We're back here on 5 Club's Golf Channel and on SiriusXM's Channel 92 right after this. Welcome back into 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen as PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on SiriusXM. This segment is brought to you by the cradle of American golf, Pinehurst. The announcement late last week that in 2029, the U.S. Men's and Women's Opens, their own fortnight. They did it in 2014. There's nothing Pinehurst can't do. The new cottages at number 8, you can book those now. Of course, Pinehurst number 10, the new clubhouse and restaurant opening soon. Construction of Pinehurst number 11. They are always getting better. All right, the news that broke a little bit over 20 minutes ago from the PGA Tour announcing the new CEO coming from the National Football League. Well, that gentleman, Brian Rolapp, has just released his own open letter. And let's take a look at what he has to say. Again, this is the new CEO of the PGA Tour. And he says, I'm honored to step into the role of the CEO of the PGA Tour. Golf has one of the deepest histories and many of the most timeless traditions in all of sports. That history and those traditions have inspired generations of players and fans, creating both a game and a tour that millions around the world love. At the same time, professional golf is evolving, as are the ways fans consume sports. My goal as CEO is to honor golf's traditions, but not be overly bound by them. Over the past few years, the tour has made meaningful progress in addressing these changes, from creating more opportunities for players to improving the competitive structure and enhancing the fan experience. But there's still significant work to do. An incredible opportunity remains ahead, from creating the highest quality golf product that includes the best players in the world to strengthening commercial partnerships. As I spoke to players, board members, and fans in recent months, I felt drawn to this potential. He goes on to say, I come from the National Football League, so I'll be the first to admit I've got a lot to learn about golf, but I love the game. I play the game, and I'm a PGA Tour fan myself. To that end, I cannot wait to meet every one of our players, get in front of as many fans as possible, and better understand the needs of our partners. I'm all in. He finishes by saying, I'm here with deep respect and curiosity to listen, learn from all of you, and help take the tour to the next level. Players are central to everything we do, and making sure they are supported and heard will be a top priority. At the same time, we are going to keep challenging ourselves to grow the game in new ways, reach new fans, and create a tour that reflects the future of sports and entertainment. Respect the past, build the future. Let's move forward together. That is Brian Rolapp. This is a gentleman, graduate from BYU and also an MBA from Harvard as well. 22 years at the National Football League and now the CEO of the PGA Tour. So with that, I welcome in Brendon de Jonge, half of Wagyu filet. There's sometimes you just have to be disciplined. You don't have the Wagyu and the filet. Where is he, by the way?
I think he's getting his mustache dyed. Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. He's on his way to Wilmington to watch his son play.
Which is awesome.
Which is great. It was fantastic.
Okay,
very excited.
You heard this news. You just listened to and read that letter along with me. Your reaction to the new leader of the PGA Tour, Jay Monahan's going to remain with the tour through 26. fulfill his contractual obligations, but Brian Rolapp's the boss. What's your reaction?
Well, from everything I've heard, this is a massive loss to the NFL. So on the flip side of that, if it's a massive loss to the NFL, it's a huge gain for the PGA. So this is fantastic news. And I think anytime you get a new face in there, there's an excitement, there's an anticipation. What sort of ideas are they going to bring in with them? So I think this is fantastic.
You know, what you said about the National Football League, and I'm not trying to conflate anything, but in talking to people as this search was going on and the fact that his name was involved in this, that alone, again, I'm quoting other people in the sports industry, was a coup itself, that there was genuine interest on his part, that it was plausible that Brian Rolapp could have eventually been the commissioner of the National Football League. And he has made the choice at this stage of his life to become the CEO of the PGA Tour. One thing that he said in that letter, I think, speaks to his strength, which is media, entertainment. Where is this product being distributed? He was the central figure, Brendon, when it came to all of the advancements of their distribution on the NFL side in 2021. Where is the National Football League not seen? Seriously.
Well, I grew up in Africa. We saw it there. I mean, it's unbelievable the range that the National Football League has. One other thing that he said there, he talked about how he has this willingness to learn. He's admitting that, listen, I don't know golf. I have a willingness to learn. I think that's key. Anytime you see someone stepping into a different position in a different sport like this, you have to have that willingness to listen and learn. Well,
you're going to be a part of the World Feed this week when it comes to PGA Tour Live. That's the next horizon. Yeah. And obviously that facility in Ponte Vedra Beach, it was built with the capacity to really, they could produce all live golf around the world simultaneously. It's his primary. They really do. Yeah. And what will be interesting for someone like Brian Rolapp and all of his experience on the media side as the chief media officer for the National Football League is to ignite that building in ways that haven't been thought about yet. And I know that it's been thought about in a lot of ways. The consumption and distribution of the PGA Tour product, to me, in terms of what he does over the next 3 to 5 years, will be as interesting as anything, in 100%. My estimation.
100%. I could not agree more. His level of expertise, and then you couple it with, you mentioned that building there, and the potential that is in that building there, it really is going to be fun to see.
Okay, for you and I, we'll have more on this tomorrow. Gabby Herzig, who is covering this announcement in Connecticut today, is going to be with us tomorrow morning. So this is a fresh breaking story. Let's get to the one that just concluded. You were the lead analyst on the radio side. You saw it all. Let me start with the golf course itself. I don't know how you define success. Was it successful when it came to the setup and the execution of the U.S. Open at Oakmont?
Yes, 100%. This is the identity of the U.S. Open, and this identified exactly what they wanted. They found a champion who had the strongest mind for the week. I mean, J.J. Spawn got off to a shocking start on Sunday, was able to turn that around, tested his mind, tested all of his abilities on the golf course. They got exactly what they wanted. I thought they were spot on with the setup. Only thing I would change, and this is nitpicking, I didn't like the 8th hole. I really didn't like the 8th hole. To me, that was boring. It was disinteresting. But other than that, I thought they were spot on.
You're not alone. The lion's share of the players, sometimes I go, okay, are they trying to find a reason to be critical, merely to be critical? But I think overwhelmingly the 8th hole was flat.
Yeah.
And you can manipulate the elasticity of the hole. The fact is, it's going to play between 240 and 301 yards. And the green also, the green lacked what all the other greens possessed.
That's exactly it.
That was the overriding part of it for me.
Exactly. If you had a green that was cool, like the 12th green where you had all these feeder spots, if you had something like that on the 8th hole, maybe you could give it a little bit of a pass. But it's one of the flattest greens on the golf course, and you're standing there with a driver or a 3-wood or some sort of metal in your hand. It's disinteresting.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with the champion. When anybody, I don't care if it is Thursday, Saturday, and in this case, Sunday, whether it is a regular tour event, and in this case, the U.S. Open, we know bogeys are going to be made. But when you're 5 over through 6 holes, that's debilitating. Debilitating to your psyche. You're thinking, my gosh, I'm not outside of the draft where I have to be making birdies, but you know the value of par, and he's not making those pars. What stood out about his ability to do the reset to the manner in which he did?
Honestly, the way, Gary, that he never appeared to get down on himself. He did a really good job of staying positive, and that's hard to do, especially with some of the breaks that he got. The second shot that he hits into 2 that skips into the pin, I mean, that was going to settle 3-4 feet behind the hole. Who knows, may have even spun back and gone in. But to get that kind of break there, make the bogey there, then he hit not a bad tee shot that hits a bunker rake and steps up there. He ends up making another bogey there. So the fact that he was able to not get down, especially in a U.S. Open. It's so easy to get that woe is me attitude in a U.S. Open. Like, I'm getting all these bad breaks. This is a U.S. Open Sunday. I've heard about this happening to so many different guys. It's my turn now. So the fact that he could turn it around was very, very impressive. I
know that you heard him draw on the restart at the Players, and having that experience, and then also listening to, the people he trusts most about, you're trying too hard to win the U.S. Open, which I get that. I get what that sentiment means. The putt he makes on 12 to me was the igniter.
100%.
It was found money, even though it's a par 5. Making 4 there was not a given. It was a lengthy putt. That was when I said, okay, he's in this thing. Did you agree with that?
100%, because that's such a difficult putt as well. That putt was down the hill very fast, breaking 2 different directions. One that you can easily run 6 feet by, and then you're further out of it. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. The putt on 12 was absolutely key.
15. He hits a poor tee shot left, and you're going, okay, he may have to drop. I mean, I don't know if he can put a club on it. He could. He hits 8-iron, he hits it to the other side. So now he's in the deep rough on the right side, but he's got a reasonable angle. I thought, again, minimizing mistakes. It seemed like everybody made a double, but he didn't. I thought 15 was key too.
Yeah.
Not exactly. Not only that day, but the whole week as well. I thought walking to 16T when it looked like that could have been a monster number was, again, it was almost like psychologically he picked up a quarter of a shot.
Oh, very much so, especially with all the carnage that was going on around him. At that point, everybody's dropping shots left and right. As you say there, to minimize the damage and just walk away with the 5 there at 15 was massive.
All right, the tee shot on 17. If somebody who is a Hall of Fame player hits that shot, it goes into their Hall of Fame wing of their Hall of Fame induction speaks. Like, remember that tee shot on 17 in the final round when he's in a mosh pit of a first page of a leaderboard? It's J.J. Spawn. Seriously, how do you hit a BB like that under those circumstances?
You stand up there, you trust your golf swing, and he did that better than anybody all week. He stood up, aimed down the left side of every hole, trusted that cut. He did it on 17. I mean, that ball took a good look at the hole as it
really did.
To drive it to, 15, 18 feet there, 2-putt for birdie when you're tied for the lead of the U.S. Open, is phenomenal.
The tee shot on 18, it takes no backseat to Angel Cabrera, to Dustin Johnson. I thought it was equally as impressive because I'm going, who knows, after making the 3, he knows that McIntyre is posted, and then he hits the shot that he hit. I thought him making the putt, a 2-putt he wins, him making the putt, I think, elevated the whole thing because you got exuberance from him, which he's not accustomed to doing. If he coaxes it down and he makes it, there's no demonstrative celebration. He gave that just rain-soaked crowd a moment that I think will stand up forever.
I think it's huge, and I think it's massive to take a little heat off the USGA as well. But this is now going to be remembered for the putt he made, and we'll stop talking about the Sam Burns ruling back there on 15. I think that
you didn't
was
like
really
the ruling?
No, not at all. Not at all. I didn't understand that one at all.
But doesn't it fit the narrative?
Yes, it does.
Like
it does.
You could keep call in another one.
Yeah.
Hit it.
Yeah.
Call in another one. And I'm not saying that it didn't look reasonable for him to that was the low point of the hole. And where is he going to move that? He's going to move it to a higher point, but what real appreciable advantage is he going to be gained from that? He didn't have to do anything in a pronounced way for him to be drawing up water. And again, I know the language of the rule talks about noticeable water. It looked pretty noticeable to me.
When you make a practice swing and water flies up everywhere, that's pretty noticeable. I will say Sam Burns handled that wonderfully well.
Like a total grown-up.
Yep.
Speaking of grown-ups, at times he doesn't act that way. Tyrrell Hatton, he's among a cadre of players who walks away from there hurting the most, like they let it get away. Is there one that stands out clearly for you?
I would have to say Adam Scott's the one for me.
Really?
Yeah, Adam Scott's the one for me. Adam's 44 years old now.
Because it was the last great chance? Is that part of it?
I think so. I really do. And he had played so well, so steady for the entire week. And then after that rain delay, Adam he couldn't get it together. It started on the 11th hole there when he hit that flyer. And again, that's the conditions, a little unlucky with the conditions. Stands up there with a wedge that flies 30 yards too far. That's not a pro's not going to hit that shot. That was the conditions. But I think Adam's going to leave really disappointed. And then Tyrrell Hatton would be the other one.
He has to be. To me, Brendon, he has to be. He hit, when you stake it like he did on 16, that could have been one of the great shots that stands in Oakmont lore. I mean, that hole is 240. I mean, Scotty Scheffler hit 5-wood.
Yeah.
He roasts a 4-iron to 10 feet. And he didn't hit a poor putt, it just doesn't go in. And then 17 happens. He's got to be, and I thought, again, he's watching live as
I thought his reaction was priceless.
It was great. I would start with Tyrrell Hatton myself, but I get it because of the window of time for Adam being what it is.
I think Tyrrell Hatton, the biggest disappointment is he really didn't do much wrong on 17. That's
no, he didn't.
You're trying to hit it in that bunker. If you miss it,
spot.
Ends up in a really bad spot where you've got no chance. So you're on a downslope to a slightly elevated green. You've got absolutely no chance. So yeah, there'll be a disappointment there for him as well.
Okay, we take a break. We've got more to try to squeeze in here. It is a Tuesday edition. Wagyu. Well, he's watching some junior golf. And what did you say? He's dyeing his mustache? Ouch. More with Brendon de Jonge right here on a Tuesday on 5 Clubs right after this. Final couple of minutes here on this Tuesday at 5 Clubs Golf Channel and on SiriusXM's Channel 92. That is PGA Tour Radio. Alongside Brendon de Jonge, I'm Gary Williams. All right, so Scotty Scheffler, a couple more nuggets and just put a bow on the U.S. Open. Give me a synopsis on Scotty Scheffler's week.
Just a typical Scotty Scheffler. I mean, backdoor top 10. Really didn't have his best stuff, but was in contention. He wasn't far away at all.
No, he wasn't.
He missed so many putts on that final.
5 inside of 5 feet over the course of the week, and a bushel full of 3 putts.
Bogeys the last. I mean, he makes a couple of those earlier, doesn't bogey the last. Posts +1. It's a little different when Scotty Scheffler posts +1 and he's sitting there watching. That name carries a little more weight, but you know what? It's just so typical of the guy. Appears like he doesn't play well, doesn't putt well, still adds up, and it's a top 10.
Yeah, you said this to me before the championship started about his left miss. And as much as, yes, we can focus on the short misses and the 3 putts, and there's no doubt that was a big part of it, his driver let him down, too. And that put him in a position to really have to battle on more holes than we thought he was going to have to. He drove it pretty damn effectively at Memorial. He did not drive it well, and I thought the 3rd hole summed up kind of the week. He was in the church pews 3 of the 4 days.
Yeah, you could see he was fighting that left miss the entire time, and we saw the level of frustration was pretty high there when we saw him with Randy on the range. That I think was it Friday afternoon, or Thursday afternoon. The level of frustration was pretty high, and it was for that reason that his cut was not cutting. And as a guy that likes to move it left to right, it's a hard way to play.
Rory, he had a nice Sunday. He said, he spoke Saturday, then Sunday, and he said, look, my Everest was in April.
Yeah.
but if I can't be motivated to try to ascend at a place like Portrush, then there's no place for me to try to climb. Does your intuition tell you that in a month's time, his mind will be in a place that he's ready to try to climb again?
I certainly hope so. I was of the feeling, I was on the other side that you were after Augusta. I thought for Rory, this was going to be the weight lifted off his shoulders and he was just going to go. You pointed out that, hang on a second, he's climbed this mountain, now where do we go? It might be really difficult for him to do it again, and it appears that it obviously has been that way. If he cannot get excited for a home Open Championship, I mean, this is...
Especially off what happened the last time he was there.
Exactly. Missed the cut the last time we were there. Got off to that shocking start the last time we were there. If he cannot get excited for this, then it's a little worrying. And as someone who really likes watching Rory McIlroy play, I certainly hope that that level of excitement can get back there in, what is a month's time now?
Yeah, you're a huge fan of sport. And one of the things I said yesterday is that, look, I understand that tennis Grand Slam champions, they've got their next slam a month or so later, but those greats didn't wait a decade to win the next one. He did. So unlike guys like Mahomes and Brady and Steph, when they win the thing that means the most, they disappear for like 5 months.
Yeah.
He didn't have that luxury.
Doesn't have that, right.
So I'm interested to see, like you are. By the way, one other note, some news coming out from the USGA in a little bit of time. The place that I grew up at, Ridgewood Country Club, is going to be afforded and awarded several USGA championships. The details of that coming in a little bit over an hour. Excited for them, proud for them, happy for them, well deserved. You are off to Hartford, my friend.
I am. I'm excited. I get to walk for the world feed, get to be a part of it. Can't wait.
Awesome. Enjoy your week in Hartford. For all of us here tomorrow, Mel Reed will join us, Gabby Herzig. Have a great Tuesday.